Welcome to the Raging Takes podcast with your hosts, Brian Dixon, Kai Zabo, and Dylan Peters.
What up, you turkeys? Welcome to episode 141 of the Raging Takes podcast. Today is Tuesday, January 21st, 2025. I'm your host, Brian Dixon, joined as always by my co-host, Dylan Peters. Salutations.
Howdy doody.
Howdy doody to you as well. No Kai today. He's up in the mountains with his girlfriend, spending the week in the mountains. So hopefully he's having fun up there. Probably very cold. Yet last night was the coldest day in Las Vegas in 3 years. So I assume it's even colder in the mountains.
That's funny. I think I remember them spending 16 days in the mountains not too long ago.
The Scottish mountains, if I recall correctly.
It was different mountains, but the same geographical anomaly. No, I hope he's having fun because it is chilly. I hope he has some chili.
Yes.
Yes, he probably does know it, Kai.
Almost certainly has some chili ready up in those cabins. We're going to talk just some news and notes real quick and then just recap the divisional round of the playoffs. 4 games, most of them very good. I would say 3 out of 4 of them were awesome. And then the last one was just whatever. It wasn't bad necessarily, but it was fine.
It was better football this past week and the one before that.
For sure. Because there was only one good game in Wild Card weekend. And honestly, I would say if the Chiefs game was in Wild Card weekend, it probably would have been the second best game of the week, to be honest with you. So,
yeah.
Okay, we'll start off with the news. First up, it's your Bears. The Bears. They win the Ben Johnson sweepstakes. I honestly thought he was going to go to the Raiders. This was a disappointing thing to read when I saw it yesterday. I don't know any contract details. I haven't heard anything yet. I don't know if you have, but they're also heavily pursuing Dennis Allen as the defensive coordinator and then Darren Rizzi as special teams coach. So go ahead. How do you feel about the hire? Do you like it? And also, how do you feel about Allen and Rizzi too, potentially?
I like the hire. I mean, if you ask me, Ben Johnson was probably the most widely sought after head coaching candidate this year. I know Mike Vrabel was a good one too, but hey, look, everybody wanted Ben Johnson. That was the whole talk. The Bears got him. I kind of alluded to it last week that the Bears would be there with their hands and their arms wide open. As soon as the Lions out of the playoffs, dude, they're like, come to us. We'll console you. Now
come to us.
Hey, you know how in Detroit, there's like that guy, Dan Campbell, and you're kind of overshadowed by him a little bit, and that's why you want to get out? You can come be the man in Chicago.
If you win 7 games, you'll be the most popular person in the city.
Yeah. Hey, Ben, this was the interview questions. Ben Johnson. Okay, so very, very nice resume. Top offense the past 3 seasons. You guys just scored like an NFL record amount of points. You're throwing passes to your offensive lineman. Dude, this is a crazy resume. Do you know how to not ruin a quarterback's career?
You're hired.
Okay, you're hired. We'll give you $50 million a year. I don't know how much they paid him, but great hire. I mean, obviously, he's going to come in, and I trust him to put together the staff he's going to put together. I mean, obviously, the front office trusts him because we all heard some rumblings about like how he wants things structured. So I'm guessing the Bears said, come in and do your thing, because Ryan Pohl's job is him and Ben Johnson are connected at the hip now. You done hired your last coach, my friend. Like, that doesn't work like that. So
yeah, one way or the other, this is probably your last coach, either by success or utter failure.
Yeah. So
honestly, the rumor was that Ben Johnson wanted maybe not like full control, because it's like, he's not Belichick over here or anything like that, but he definitely wanted to have like be in sync with the general manager, and that's kind of what the Raiders were rumored to be. That's why he was so interested in them. I think he chose the Bears over the Raiders because of the quarterback situation. Obviously, where you have Caleb Williams, and whatever you think of Caleb Williams, I think he's going to be great personally still. It's definitely a better situation than whatever the Raiders have going for him, which is either like AOC or you make a run at Darnold or you just hope that a quarterback is available in like the second or third round. The uncertainty, you don't want to like start your tenure off with no quarterback because you never know when you're going to get one. And then let's say you don't get one to like year 3 and you've had 2 bad seasons, you're already on the hot seat before you can even develop the quarterback. That's setting yourself up for failure. I don't blame him at all for going to Chicago. I think this is a good move. And now I assume that means that him and Ryan Poles are on the same page. If he was going to bypass the, having control over the franchise thing for the Bears, because he's not going to have full control. I'm sure Poles will listen to him a lot and all the the football details and the free agency moves and stuff like that. But it's not like Ben Johnson has total control of the Bears. I think that's perfectly fine. So I don't know what your full opinion of it, Ryan Poles is, but I think it's worth giving him another year or two to just go ahead, figure it out with the quarterback, like the coach. I think if they have another bad year next year, I don't think that he should be fired. Kind of like have some stability there for a couple of years, see if him and Ben Johnson can cook something up, and then go from there. I don't know. Do you agree with that, or do you think Poles should be like on a hot seat situation? Because he hasn't been a great GM. Well, he hasn't been necessarily awful, especially in Bears terms, but he hasn't been great either.
Well, when it comes to being a GM, I think he's like above league average. I'd say you put him smack between like the 12 and the 16 range. First time GM. I mean, this is his experience, these last couple of years with Chicago. Has brought in some talent. I mean, acquired DJ Moore. He did that crazy trade with Carolina that garnered us, a first overall pick the next season, thanks to them, thanks to us, thanks to how bad we are too. But has brought in like Montez Sweat, has brought in, he got Roma Dunze, Caleb Williams, Darnell Wright. I mean, DeAndre Swift was not great, but he was a big part of our offense of whatever we had. So I feel like he's brought in the pieces. But if it's all a web and it all works together, like you need that great offensive mind to come in and have that laid out scheme of these are the guys I need. Like, this is the guy, this is the guy, this is the guy for my scheme. Do with what you will, your scouts, find me a guy like this. So I feel like if it doesn't work out with Ben Johnson, or like, I don't think the talent acquisition would be the issue before. I think it was the coaching. The offensive coaching was just never there.
And then what do you think about Dennis Allen and Darren Rizzi potentially?
Oh, man, like Dennis Allen has put together some of the best defenses, that the Saints have had ever. And I kind of like the idea of like players like Montez Sweat and Jalen Johnson having that defensive mind in the room, because you saw how they played under like Eberflus and like the drop off after him. So it's like these guys respond to good coaching. Dennis Allen is a good coach. I just hope everything fits. The scheme. I'm not sure what that's going to entail, like who's staying, who's coming in, but I think we have the talent on defense, and if we get some good coaching in there, Dennis Allen's a good guy to be in there.
Yeah, I agree.
Special teams matters. I guess if he's good enough to get promoted to interim for the Saints from the special team spot, there is a little bit of talent there. I mean, Bisaccia was great. He's still a great special teams coordinator. So that gives me a little faith. I'm just interested to see who he brings in as his offensive coordinator now that he's in Chicago and how that's going to work.
Yeah, I mean, Rizzi, he is like a coach's or a player's coach too.
Yeah.
Like people like him. I feel like, I don't know if he's necessarily like head coach material. Like he did okay, I guess, for the Saints when he was stepping into the interim, but you could tell the Saints really responded to him as a coach, where Dennis Allen seemed like one of the most unlikable people ever. He doesn't have to be likable if he's a defensive coordinator, in my opinion. Alvin Kamara tweeted earlier, my vote for head coach rhymed with fizzy. So he wants Darren Rizzi back as head coach of the Saints. I think that would be a bad idea personally. Sounds just like Antonio Pierce 2.0. I think his best course of action is just go be the Bears special team coordinator. If Ben Johnson's cooking, they have potentially a really special thing heating up there with Caleb Williams too. Give it a few years. Maybe the Bears turn into like a powerhouse a couple years down the road, So that's what I would do if I were him. I mean, if you get a head coaching job, take it, but I don't really expect like a serious team to offer him head coach.
Yeah. And I think another reason why I like these two candidates right here is because Dennis Allen can bring defense to Chicago. And Chicago's always, and you know this, dude, when Chicago's good, their special teams is good. Mm-hmm. I'm talking about, like, we don't always win with the offense, but our defense and our special teams is always top of the league whenever we have a successful team. So I guess it's good to solidify that side of the ball. I think Ben Johnson's got it, though, on the offensive side.
Okay, so there's only a few head coaching positions left, right? There's the Jets, the Jaguars, the Saints, the Cowboys, and the Raiders, I think. Are those the 5?
Yeah.
Am I missing one? So we'll see. I expect Aaron Glenn to get scooped up here in the coming days. He's heavily rumored to be interested in the Jets. I know he had an interview today with them, and also a guy that I believe he used to work for the Lions and now works for the Commanders. I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but there was a rumor that they might be a package deal for the Raiders, or Ben Johnson and him would be a package deal for the Raiders if Johnson would have came to the Raiders. Now I think the Raiders have scrapped that plan, but now the Jets seem like they might try to do that with Aaron Glenn and him. So we'll see if that works out for them. Next up, Vikings and Kevin O'Connell have reached a multi-year contract extension. Don't have to go too in-depth with this. This is a obvious move that you got to make. And also, multi-year extensions don't really even mean anything in the NFL. Like, if Kevin O'Connell goes out there and has 2 losing seasons back-to-back these next 2 years, he could still get fired easily. So I hope that doesn't happen. I don't think that's going to happen because I do think he's a really good coach, but I just try to not get too hyped up over multi-year contract extensions. It's like, oh, Kevin O'Connell's going to be the head coach for the next 10 years. You never know. Things change so quickly in sports and especially in the NFL, but really good move. He revitalized Sam Darnold's career this year. He could probably do it again with another quarterback if they need it to, if J.J. McCarthy doesn't work out, or if Darnold doesn't come back, or if Darnold does come back, keep it going. I don't know. So that's a pretty good move by them.
Yeah, I think it was just for them to put more money in his pocket.
Probably.
It's like here you go.
And he deserved it too.
For next season. Yeah.
I think the only coach in Vikings history to have 2 14-win seasons or 2 13-win seasons, something like that. And he's only been there for 3 years. So obviously really good coach.
Yeah.
And then last news item. Yeah, sorry, NFC North. NFC North.
It is.
Last news item. Vrabel hires Josh McDaniels as his offensive coordinator for the Patriots. His 3rd stint in this role. Josh McDaniels is back. Honestly, this is the only job that I would be like, yeah, that's fine. Because this is the only job that he is successful in, I feel like. He will never be a head coach ever again. At least I sincerely doubt he will be. He shouldn't be. He's not head coach material. He doesn't know how to relate to players. But he's a good offensive mind. So if you can get those players on the Patriots to buy into your system, maybe it can work again. I like Drake May. Maybe he can work with him. I mean, Drake May is never going to be Tom Brady probably, but he can still be a successful quarterback. So this is a good move.
He could be Drake May. He could be Drake May. I think this is a good move, and I think it's good for Drake May to get a guy that's worked with Brady, that's worked with Belichick, that's worked with all these great coaches, offensive minds and stuff. I think it's and you're right. Josh McDaniels is like Nick Foles in Philadelphia, only good in Philly. In Josh McDaniels' case, only good in Foxborough.
And then, you also just keep the Patriots connection together, right? Like Mike Vrabel used to be a Patriots player. Now Josh McDaniels. I mean, Vrabel used to coach for the Patriots too. He was like an assistant before he got he went over to Tennessee. Yeah. So good move, I guess. I'm not a big Josh McDaniels guy, obviously, but I can't deny that he has that success in that specific role. So it makes sense.
Very specific.
Very specific. All right, let's get to the games. First up, standings update. So I'm currently in first. I went 3-1 this week. My only loss was the Lions. I'm 7-3. Kai also went 3-1 this week. He's 6-4. You went 2-2. You're also 6-4. So still anybody's game here. Got 3 games left. 3 games left. Still anybody's game. Ooh. So we'll see what happens. And then
it's gonna be spicy.
The fantasy challenge results. Remember, we drafted a team on Saturday, each of us. Dylan won that one. 97.6 points combined. Just a reminder, his quarterback was Lamar Jackson, who got 20.9. Jahmyr Gibbs, 35.5. That was a big one. Terry McLaurin, 18.7. Nico Collins, 13.1. And Mark Andrews, who, had a horrible game, but ended up having 9.4 points. So, you would live with that in fantasy.
Dude, if he would have just caught 2 more passes and not fumbled, it would just be.
Let's see.
Did Mark Andrews fumbled, right?
He had a horrible fumble. He had a fumble, and then he had his first fumble since 2019, by the way, was in that playoff game. That's horrible timing for that to happen. And then he had the drop 2-point conversion, which is a hard catch to make. But if you're a professional football player, you have to make that catch. I'm sorry.
Dude, he was the sickest man in America all night.
I felt awful for him. The Bills fans, though, apparently have been donating to his charity, which is nice.
They do that. Bills fans.
A little degrading in a way, but still nice nonetheless. Like, I'm sure Mark Andrews is happy about it, but it's like, hey, sorry we whooped your ass because of you. Here's some money for a good cause. But the Bills Mafia do that often. Like, they did that with Andy Dalton that one time when the Bengals beat somebody the Bills needed to lose so the Bills could make the playoffs for the first time since like 1999, back when Tyrod Taylor was their quarterback. So the Bills have a good fan base. They're crazy, but they're good. I came in second place in this contest. I had 93.8 points. I had Josh Allen, who had 19. Saquon, who had 39.2. Not enough to give me the win, though, Saquon. Puka, 15.7. Devontae Smith, 6.1. That was a tough one. And then Zach Ertz, 13.8. So
Zach Ertz wasn't a bad pick.
No, he wasn't. I was like, he just needs to catch a touchdown. And guess what? He did. And then Kai, last place, 82.2, kind of a distant last place.
Oh, he stinks.
He had Jalen Hurts, who had 18, Derrick Henry, who had 14.4, Amon-Ra, who had 21.7, A.J. Brown, who only had 3.4, and then Travis Kelce, who obviously popped off and went 24.7 points. So congrats, Dylan. Maybe we'll do that again for next week. We'll have less teams to choose from, but it was kind of fun. It was fun calculating the scores, seeing who won. I thought I was, as soon as Saquon started popping off, I'm like, oh, you motherfuckers, I got this. Nope. Okay.
Gibbs, baby. Gibbs was the only person that could offset Saquon.
Dude, I want to talk about Gibbs when we get there too. So I didn't realize until today about something, and I want to get something off my chest here. Okay, not in a bad way, not bad for the Lions, not bad for Gibbs. Chiefs 23, Texans 14 will be the first game that we talk about. Let's just get this one out of the way because it's the most boring one for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So let's go down to the line here. Mahomes was 16 for 25, 177, and a touchdown. The touchdown was awesome, by the way, too. He was like horizontal to the ground. I mean, only a play that Mahomes could do. I think somebody else did it this week though too, didn't they?
Like the falling down throw.
Oh, Goff did it, didn't he? Didn't Goff throw it to Laporta, right? So I guess technically Mahomes isn't the only person that can do that, but it just, as soon as that happened, I was like, of course Mahomes did that. The run game, kind of interesting splits here. So Kareem Hunt went 8 for 44 and a touchdown. Pacheco only went 5 for 18. Pacheco just hasn't really been Pacheco since he's come back. So I don't know if they're just preferring to use Kareem Hunt or maybe he's still slightly injured and like slowly working his way back. I was kind of expecting Pacheco to be like a game changer. Only 5 carries. That's not a game changer right there. So I don't know. Maybe they have more plans for him later. I don't know.
He looked like he was running hard. Kudos to the Texans defense for holding that run game down. But when it's all said and done, dude, Kareem Hunt just looks better.
Dude, and it's not like he looks like Derrick Henry out there either. It's obvious he's like he's not washed up, but he's on the back end of his career, and you can tell he's not like as fast as he used to be. He's just kind of like a bruiser out there. I agree with you. He looks better, and he's got to be like hungry, right? Because he's never won. Yeah. He never won a Super Bowl with Kansas City. He got kicked off the team before the Mahomes era, I believe. I think it was still Alex Smith. So he was in Browns purgatory for several years. Now he's back with the Chiefs. He wants a Super Bowl, so you know he's gonna be running hard for that. Not that Pacheco doesn't. Pacheco is known for running hard every time he has the ball, but I agree with you. I think maybe Kareem Hunt is just the way to go right here. I mean, 5 for 18. That's not good at all. So
no, you're not gonna keep Kareem Hunt off the field. I feel like even at this point in his NFL career, I kind of still want him out there on the field. Mm-hmm. Football IQ. He's been there before. He's played more NFL games. He can offer you more in the receiving game, like pass blocking, all these things. Like, don't get me wrong, Pacheco's gonna get his. He's gonna get his. They still got this next game to play, so that'll come into play whenever it does. But I like the way Kareem Hunt is just playing in general. And it's a bad omen for the rest of the NFL.
I agree. Well, Dude, they only had to give him the ball 8 times, like 8 for 44. Like, that's really good, honestly. And then, like, I feel like the day that you give them 20 carries, the Chiefs are just going to be running the ball right down your throat. So, the receiving game, Kelsey went 7 for 117 and a touchdown, the most obvious thing that was ever going to happen. Are they doing this on purpose? Are they just like kind of like saving him for the playoffs? Like, that sounds stupid, right? Or maybe he's doing it to himself. I don't know. I
would say but there was a tale of two things. You could look at it on paper and go, wow, Travis Kelsey basically had 70% of Patrick Mahomes passing like efficiency. 16 completions, 7 of them to Kelsey for a good over 60% of his yards and the touchdown. So it's just like all the Texans had to do was keep an eye on Travis Kelsey, and it feels like they could have limited that Chiefs offense even more. But, man, I got to tell you, Azeez Al-Shaair, I was watching that game, and they said it in the broadcast booth. He was just doing the piss-poor job of keeping track of where Travis Kelsey was. It's like he forgot that he was playing the Chiefs. And I think you have to look at that, and you have to go, wow, it's this one linebacker blew 2 coverages, and that's the difference between the Chiefs and the Texans game, you know?
Was Al-Shaair the one that Kelsey stood over after he caught a touchdown?
I think it might have been.
I think it was, yeah.
He was supposed to be covering him.
Kelsey also did the thing that he always does too. It's just like the most classic Travis Kelsey move is like when he's going over the middle and then he has like 2 steps on the defender. He catches it and then spins around the other way and just completely leaves the other guy in the dust and then gets like 10 more yards. It's just like,
and it's so clumsy and it's so slow and it's so clunky. You're wondering, how in the world is that man running free right now on an NFL field full of athletes? And then you wonder, and then you think to yourself, oh yeah, he's got like that 42-year-old dude playing basketball, pickup basketball game on the beach, like on the concrete court, the old rims, and he's just slamming dunks on you, and you're like, how? That's the energy I get off Travis Kelsey.
I'm gonna personally guarantee that he scores another touchdown next week.
Oh, wow.
I'm personally guaranteeing that Kelsey scores a touchdown against the Bills. Yes. Calling it right now. It might be their only offensive touchdown. Who knows? I don't know.
Oh,
Kelsey's scoring a touchdown next week. He comes alive in the playoffs, dude. It's the most obvious thing that's ever going to happen.
It would be stupid of me to disagree.
The only wide receiver that caught a football in this game for the Chiefs was Xavier Worthy. Hopkins had 0. Hollywood had 0. Worthy went 5 for 45.
So they just did
They don't need these other players. All they need is Mahomes, Andy Reid, Harrison Butker, and Travis Kelsey. They can just run a 3-man football team out there. The kicker, the tight end, and the quarterback. And somehow they'll win. They'll get a couple penalties.
Yeah. A penalty every play, actually.
So George Karlaftis, he had 3 sacks in this game. He's always been a good player. Stroud, 19 to 28, 245 on the other side. Mixon, 18 for 88 and a touchdown. Collins went 5 for 81. Schultz, 4 for 63. Fairbairn missed 2 field goals and an extra point. I believe one of them got blocked. I think it was a field goal got blocked. But not a good game from him. Will Anderson had 2 sacks. So this is about the performance I expected out of the Texans, honestly, and the Chiefs. I thought this was going to be kind of a lower scoring game. It did hit the under, I believe. I think Kai bet the over classically. I fully expected the Texans not be able to score a lot of points. Mixon had a nice game, but like other than that, they just really couldn't get anything going. People were in Stroud's face just constantly. It just about what we expect out of the Texans. I kind of just thought their ceiling was the divisional round. I thought they'd lose last week, but I definitely didn't think that they would make it to the AFC Championship game. They didn't. The Chiefs are back for the 7th straight time or something stupid like that. So we'll see if the Bills can actually knock them off next week. Okay. I would say probably the game of the week, even though it wasn't the closest game. Commanders 45, Lions 31. This was like one of the more entertaining football games I've seen all year, honestly. That second quarter was crazy. I think the teams combined to score 42 points in the second quarter, which was the most in a quarter in NFL history. Crazy. Jaden Daniels, 22 of 31, 299, 2 touchdowns, and 51 rushing yards. Honestly, he just like people are saying this all over the place. He just does not look like a rookie at all. He looks like the most poised quarterback in the entire league. Like nothing phases him. It's like a minute left in the game. You need a touchdown. He's not sweating at all. He's like laughing with his teammates and like laughing at the opponents and like all this stuff. He doesn't give a shit about anything, dude. And it's awesome. Brian Robinson, 15 for 77 and 2 touchdowns. Big game from him. McLaurin, 4 for 87. De'Ami Brown, 6 catches for 98 yards. Coming into these playoffs, Dylan, De'Ami Brown did not have a single game in his career with 5 catches. And now in back-to-back playoff games, he has at least 5 catches. He had 5 last week, 6 this week. I mean, if he picks it up, that's a game changer potentially. I mean, he hasn't really shown a lot in his NFL career, but like you have another wide receiver out there, like Noah Brown's out for the season. He was pretty solid second wide receiver to Terry McLaurin, but ever since then, haven't really been able to find anyone else. De'Ami Brown has like spots here or there where he makes a big catch. If he can turn it on in these playoffs and they have another wide receiver that they can go to along with Zach Ertz too, like that just helps Shaden Daniels that much more. So shout out to De'Ami Brown for stepping it up in the biggest moments of his career so far. Zach Ertz, 5 for 28 and a touchdown. Mike Sainristil, 2 interceptions, including the one when he was covering Jameson Williams where Goff threw it deep and he just like cut in front of it. That was like such a sick play. Like the ball tracking skills on that kid are really good. He was only a second rounder. He plays like a first rounder, dude. Like how did this guy drop to the second round? He's a really good cornerback. For the Lions, Goff, 23 of 40, 313 yards, a touchdown, 3 picks. Very un-Goff-like. I know he had a couple of games this year where he had a lot of turnovers, but he just did not really look like himself. Looked like he was just trying to play hero ball out there. And that's not really how the Lions play, right? The Lions are kind of like a do-your-job team. You know, like Goff just don't take care of the ball, don't turn it over, and he turned it over a lot. Did he have a fumble in this game too? I think he may have. I'm not sure.
He turned it over a lot is what I'm saying. He did.
Go ahead.
It was just uncharacteristic like game for Jared Goff, and I've kind of hinted at this in the past about Washington. Their defense is good. It's not great. It's not top of the league. It's good. And 5 takeaways against the Lions is the only way you beat the Lions. So they beat the Lions in the only way they possibly could. Is just keep the ball out of their offense's hands. And they just absolutely fucking nailed it.
And sometimes you can get the 5 turnovers off the Lions and still lose. Like there was Goff threw 5 interceptions in a game this season and the Lions still won. So it's like. It was
against the Texans, right?
Maybe. Sounds right.
I think it was a game against the Texans. It was just sloppy.
Jahmyr Gibbs, 14 for 105, 2 touchdowns, 6 catches for 70 yards. How is Gibbs only getting 14 carries in this game? That seems like a low number, right? Like Monty had 7 for 28. I understand not giving him. Also, he wasn't very effective, but I also understand kind of like easing him back in. Gibbs should have carried the ball more than 14 times, I think. I mean, he was tearing the Commanders up. Literally, he was like their whole entire offense for a large majority of the game. And their offense still looked really good with it. You know, just give the ball to Gibbs and he would tear off a big run. You got to give him more than 14 carries, in my opinion, even if you are losing. They weren't like losing for a lot of this game, though. They might have been down like 10-ish points. That's not enough points to not give one of the best running backs in the league the ball more, personally, I think.
I think it's about time we should start thinking about Dan Campbell and his inexperience in the postseason, and he's being exposed for it. Now, he's a great regular season head coach, don't get me wrong, but he has now been ousted at home, right? Mm-hmm. After the spectacular season, and not even a close game fashion.
Mm-hmm.
Like they got spanked. They got spanked by 2 touchdowns by a better team that stepped onto the field that day. So it's just like, this has happened twice now, consecutively. So we have to think about the Lions now as like, no, now Dan Campbell's got his improve it mode now, because he's just been in this world of like, we are the Lions.
Bite your kneecap.
Now that, you know what that means? We are the Lions. You know what it's starting to mean? We're going to lose in the playoffs, bud. That's what that's starting to mean.
Last year, they weren't at home in the NFC Championship game. They were in San Fran, but they were up up pretty big, like at halftime, and still ended up losing that game. So
they're good, but the legitimacy of that good has officially come into question here on this podcast.
Can you imagine how like exhausting it must feel being a Lions fan right now? Like you've gone through all this shit and then you finally get a 15-2 team and you're like, oh my God, I'm so excited. We get the Commanders. They're a 6 seed. They have a rookie quarterback. Like we should demolish them. And then you lose at home in embarrassing fashion to that rookie quarterback. Like it must just feel so exhausting being a Lions fan. I wouldn't even want to like think about football right now if I was a Lions fan. I don't know if I would watch the rest of the playoffs, to be honest with you. I would just say, okay, fuck it. I'm taking the next 8 months off. I'm just going to be in off-season mode and we'll get excited about the team again in August.
But yeah, your question of Jahmyr Gibbs and why he's only getting 14 carries is, I don't know. Does Jared Goff need to throw it 40 times whenever he's having a hard game? No. Jahmyr Gibbs, if you were to ask me, what are the chances that the Lions can do a 12-yard pass? I'd say probably about 60% of the time they can snap off a 12-yard pass. What are the chances that Jahmyr Gibbs can get a 12-yard run? I'd say about 60%. But that offensive line doesn't make sense to take the ball out of your best player on your team's hands. In my opinion, Jahmyr Gibbs is their best player. Amon-Ra St. Brown's good. But you could put the ball right into Jahmyr Gibbs' hand. You don't have to facilitate that through a pass. You could just be like, here, dude.
So when Monty went down, I was like, oh, they might be screwed because they've lost like their identity. The last like month while Monty was away, I kind of just showed me that they might just be better giving the ball to Jahmyr Gibbs like 25 times a game and like using Monty, sure, as like a change of pace guy, but don't do it 50-50. Just like Gibbs is the better player. Like Monty's awesome, but Gibbs is a game changer, a legitimate game changer. And I don't know how you can keep up this 50-50 act with David Montgomery heading into next season. I think you have to like, don't necessarily give him like 30 carries a game. Don't like bell cow him, run him into the ground, but Gibbs has to be used more than Monty, in my opinion, like a 70-30.
Yeah. I was going to say 2/3, just 2/3 to Gibbs and his receiving work, and just give Monty the ball in like, short yardage situations and also red zone. Put him in at the goal line, but Monty's a better running back than that. But that is the whole balance of having this 2-back system, is that when you have one that's clearly better, he's never going to get the work that he's allotted. I think that goes even with Bijan Robinson, with Tyler Algier. There's games where he completely vultures him. Now, yes, Jahmyr Gibbs should have gotten 20 carries and probably 10 targets in this game. The offense should run through him primarily, in my opinion. But I think the Lions will live and learn. They just learned. They have learned.
Where do you see Gibbs going in fantasy next year? I'm thinking top 3, top 4.
I think CMC's out of contention for the 101 now. I think that's finally passed.
It's going to be, I think it's going to be Saquon and Chase 1-2 probably.
Yeah.
But
Saquon, Chase.
Gibbs and Henry will be in the, I think Henry, just because of his age, probably won't go that high, but I imagine Henry will be a first rounder next year. CMC will go high, I think, but I don't know if about first. I think maybe like a high second for CMC potentially.
I think we're going to see Bijan Robinson push up into the top 5. And I think that'll push CMC into the 6 range, 6, 7.
And we're not
still got Justin Jefferson. You still got all these guys.
Yeah, we'll see. JJ will be up there too, obviously. We're not going to see Breece Hall in the first round, I would assume, next year. So,
which, honestly, going into fantasy season, you keep an eye on that, because if you can get Breece Hall on the turn, even into the mid of the second round, wherever you might get him, that could be the best value in fantasy, because he has the talent.
Oh, I still believe in him.
Roll out next year. Oh, yeah. But if you can nab Breece Hall, which is a first-round talent, in my opinion, in the second, you're looking at stacking, 2 first-round players in the top 2 rounds. So keep an eye on that. I will.
Gibbs in the first, Hall in the second. That would be pretty good.
Hey, I don't know if I'd do that 2 years in a row, because I don't like sitting on cactuses. But
the rest of these stats for the Lions. Amon-Ra, 8 for 137. Laporta, 6 for 51 and a touchdown. His touchdown catch was amazing. It was kind of like it was the Goff horizontal one, like I mentioned earlier, and then he kind of had just like a one-handed like diving catch in the back of the end zone. Probably the best play of Laporta's season, I would say. And then Jamison Williams had a crazy ass stat line. Get this, wide receiver here, folks. 1 catch for 19 yards. Then a 61-yard rushing touchdown, and then an interception he threw. Which, by the way, the interception, I think, which I would say it's not, I mean, it is his fault because he threw it, but Ben Johnson, I do like the trick plays, don't get me wrong. I don't think that was the right moment for another trick play, especially since they'd already called a few of them in the game before that, and then Jamison just threw one. I think it was to Santmer still. I think that was his second interception. And it's just like, what do you do? And then after that, it just felt like, okay, the Commanders are winning this game after that happened. I was just like, I felt like that was like, it wasn't like the straw that broke the camel's back, but it was just like, you're not getting over this one. Like, you needed a score on this drive, and now you gave the ball back to Jaden Daniels at like midfield, and I think the Commanders scored on that drive. So it's like, yeah, that one, I think that one, looking back on it, probably hurts the most for the Lions, was the Jamison Williams interception. Personally, I think.
Yeah, I would never want to put the ball into my receiver's hands to throw a pass at any point in any playoff game, but that's just me. Yeah, man, I like to think that Ben Johnson was just tired. He's like, this has been a long season. He was doing the Luka Doncic. I want to go home.
Oh, no, it's Nikola Jokic.
It's not like Nikola Jokic. Sorry. Yeah, I just want to go home with my horses.
Yeah.
I think that was his moment. He wants to go home with his horses, a.k.a.
the Bears.
Wants to sign with the Bears. He wants to sign with the Bears.
I want to go home to my Bears.
Dude, you know what I thought about today? Is thank God that the Bears got forced into doing Hard Knocks on Eberflus last season, so now we don't have to do it with Ben Johnson in-house, dude. Hell yeah.
People who have first-time head coaches don't have to do it, right? Is that safe?
Anyways, yeah. But it's like you can't have been on it for 5 years. Mm-hmm. So we got 4 more.
The Lions defense had 0 sacks and 0 turnovers in this game. Obviously, you can point to they've just been injury riddled for the last like several months, but yeah, that's tough. This is from Chase Daniel, the old ex-quarterback. Obviously, you know him pretty well.
Yeah.
Jaden Daniels has more wins this postseason, too, than he has sacks, fumbles, and interceptions combined.
All playoffs
in the 2 playoff games against Tampa and Detroit. More wins than sacks, fumbles, and interceptions. Pretty impressive. I'm
not going to lie to you, dude. I am full on rooting for the Commanders to win the Super Bowl.
Me too.
Full on. I think it would be the craziest story you've ever heard in your entire life. Jaden Daniels would have a statue built of him in Landover.
I mean, they're ready to build a statue for him already. He's only won 2 playoff games. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it would be crazy. There's no rookie quarterback that's ever made the Super Bowl, I believe. The only one I can think about that made the AFC or NFC championship game is Roethlisberger, at least in our time frame of watching football. Yeah. Did Flacco make it his rookie year? I don't think so, right? Did he? Did he make it his rookie year? I can't remember.
No.
But I remember Ben Roethlisberger obviously did, when he won like 15 games in a row or some crazy shit in the 2004 season, and then won the divisional round and then lost to Brady in the AFC championship game. The Eagles are going to be tough for them. They're going to be a really tough matchup, but they've beaten them already this year. They're going to go into that game with confidence. I'm excited to watch it. Part of me thinks the Eagles might be too good, and it'll be in Lincoln Financial Field. But after beating the Lions, I'm definitely not going to doubt Jaden Daniels, but the Eagles will be a tough matchup for sure. So I'm excited to see how that goes. And then Sam Cosmi, the guard for the Commanders, he tore his ACL in this game. He's probably their best O lineman. So this is honestly a brutal loss, especially right before Philadelphia, because their defensive line is just full of monsters. So he's also likely not going to be able to start next season healthy either. So that's a pretty big loss for Washington. Let's get to the Eagles game. Eagles 28, Rams 22. Jalen Hurts 15 of 20 for 128 and 70 rushing yards and a touchdown. That touchdown run that he that he broke off. I think it was like a 40-yard touchdown run or something like that. He just looked so fast out there. I'm just like, okay. I figured the Rams would catch up to him, and then just no one even got close to him. Saquon, 26 for 205 and 2, just popped off. He had probably his 2 best games of the season this year against the Rams. That's tough. Because the Rams have a decent defense. That's not fair to them, but they just could not stop Saquon Barkley. Not many people can, but them specifically were having very hard times stopping Saquon. This is a big-time snow game, by the way, too. Made it a lot more entertaining already than it already was. Goddard, 4 for 56. A.J. Brown, 2 for 14. Devontae Smith, 4 for 21. Not a big day for the pass catchers at all for the Eagles. They didn't need them, really. Jake Elliott missed 2 extra points. I wish Kai was on here so I could ask him how nervous he is about Jake Elliott lining up for kicks. That seems to be a little bit of an issue. Jalen Carter had 2 sacks, including basically the game-clinching one. Not really, but it was like on third down, I believe. It was either second or third down on the last drive for the Rams, and Jalen Carter just fucking flattened Matthew Stafford in the pocket, kind of just disrupted all momentum that they had. Stafford, 26 of 44, 324, 2 touchdowns, and a fumble. He said that he's going to mull over his whether he's going to retire or not, but it sounds like he's going to play next year. I don't know if it'll be for the Rams or not. I assume it will be, but I think he's going to play again. He had a good game. So
yeah,
I think Stafford can still ball.
He had a pretty good game. Still kind of struggled to find open receivers a lot. Like the Eagles defense definitely disrupted his game a lot.
Well, the Eagles have a great defense. They might have the best defense in the league, and it was snowing on the road. So I'm like, all things considered, I think he had a pretty solid game. He almost led a touchdown. I honestly thought the Rams were going to score a touchdown on that last drive.
I thought it was very possible. I'm like, holy shit! Like this is why, like Kai says, the Eagles let their foot off the gas a lot. And they were almost victim to their own bullshit in this game.
It was like 4 minutes to go when Saquon broke off that run to make it like a 13-point lead, and it was like, oh, game over. And then no, the Rams were like, no, we're not going away yet, which you would assume that would happen from a Sean McVay team. As soon as Puka caught that catch on that last drive, I was like, oh, the Rams are winning this game. And then basically that was the last good play that they had. Kyron went 19 for 106 and a fumble. Kind of had a fumbling problem this year. He's going to have to fix that heading into next season because I'm a big Kyron Williams fan. I don't think he's like a true superstar running back or anything like that. His yards per carry, I believe this year were not like amazing. He did have a fumbling issue. I could see, I don't think that they'll do it next offseason, but I could see the Rams upgrading at running back eventually. I don't know if Kyron's like a long-term starting running back in the NFL. Solid for a few years. I don't know if he has like the longevity to go over that. And the fumbling issue, like obviously in the snow, it's hard to hold on to the football, but still, I think if he doesn't fix that, it might come back to haunt him, in my personal opinion. Puka, 6 for 97, Kupp, 5 for 61, Higbee, 7 for 54 and a touchdown, and then Jared Verse, 2 sacks. Verse had a great game, honestly, but it just wasn't good enough, honestly. And then Quinyon Mitchell, he had a shoulder injury, left the game, probably not long-term, though, so we'll see if he plays this week against the Commanders. I assume that even if he doesn't play this week, he'll be back for the Super Bowl if they advance. And then Cooper Kupp says he plans to play next season, but is unsure about his future with the Rams. If you remember back to the trade deadline, there were rumors that they were shopping him. That was still kind of like when they were bad. Remember they started like 1-4 this year or something like that. Yeah. So we'll see if Kupp's back with the Rams or not. I still think Cooper Kupp has a lot of football left in him, even though he had like a kind of a disappointing last few weeks of the season, and he wasn't like total game changer in the playoffs either. I still think he has football left, and even if it's not with the Rams, he's going to go somewhere else and help a team, I think. So I'd be excited if Cooper Kupp was on my team. So I know I know he's like sneaky old. I think he's like 33 or 34 maybe, but maybe not that old. He's still got that pedigree that you want. And I believe he's 31. So and I think he still has 2 years left on his contract. So if you were to trade for him, you get 2 years of Cooper Kupp. That's not bad. That's not bad at all, dude. I would take that. Round take. Mm-hmm. You know what? We did talk about ball security issues for the Rams, and I just got to tell you, dude, you know who didn't have ball security issues at all? Saquon Barkley, dude. Well, it's because no one could tackle him. No one could touch him. He was just running open in the field half the time, you know? The blocking by the Eagles offensive line and just how explosive Saquon Barkley is. I don't know if there's someone that's faster in a straight line with football pads with a football in their arms than Saquon Barkley. I mean, the dude was running faster than maybe
I've seen someone run in good conditions this year. In snow and ice.
Yeah.
And wet. It was wet, rainy, snow ice. And he just gone, dude. And he knew he was going to score.
He was like hitting himself in the helmet. He's like firing himself up.
It's like, I love Saquon Barkley. I'm rooting for him to win a Super Bowl. But I also love the Commanders. I'm rooting for them to win a Super Bowl this year. And it's going to, like, we have 3 Super Bowls in the next 3 games. We have the NFC Championship, the AFC Championship, and the Super Bowl. All 3 of those games are the same quality game to me. Just to me, you know? We're lucky as football fans.
We also, in both games, we have teams that hate each other both ways because the Eagles and Commanders are division rivals, obviously. They don't like each other. And then the Bills and the Chiefs are like the biggest rivals you could possibly be without being in the same division, probably. So it's gonna be a fun weekend full of hatred.
Yeah, I think most of that hate comes from the Bills side.
Almost certainly. I'm sure the Chiefs don't feel that strongly towards them.
No.
If the Bills beat them, though, that might change.
It needs to be some wins for Josh Allen for this to be a rivalry, because right now it's just big bro, little bro type stuff, you know?
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Well, let's get to that game. Bills 27, Ravens 25. This was a fun game. Honestly, it lived up to the hype. Lamar versus Josh. Allen was 16 for 22, 127, 2 rushing touchdowns. This was another snow game. It wasn't quite as bad snow-wise as the Eagles game, but still enough flurries out there to cause a disruption. James Cook, 17 for 67. Ray Davis, 4 for 29 and a touchdown. That's your boy. When I saw him score a touchdown, I was like, a DP's happy. Khalil Shakur, 6 for 67. Von Miller had a fumble recovery. I believe that was the Lamar Jackson fumble. Lamar went 18 for 25, 254, 2 touchdowns, a pick and a fumble. Henry went 16 for 84 and a touchdown. Likely 4 for 73 and a touchdown. Bateman 4 for 66 and a touchdown. And then Mark Andrews 5 for 61 and had his first fumble since 2019. Like I mentioned before, just horrible timing for that to happen. Ravens had 3 turnovers in this game after setting their franchise record for fewest turnovers in a season this year. So,
it's irony, dude.
It is. And Lamar said after the game, he's like, you just got to stop turning the ball over, which it didn't sound like he was talking to himself, but I assume he was talking about himself too, because he was the biggest, obviously Mark Andrews had the bad one too, but interception and a fumble for Lamar. And also Lamar, he didn't throw like any interceptions this year. He threw 4, and like 3 of them weren't even his fault. So now this one was definitely his fault. This was probably his worst throw of the season on that interception.
That might have been, and I'm not even lying to you, dude. That might have been Lamar Jackson's worst throw as an NFL player. And I'm not joking. And his reaction afterwards says it all. Mm-hmm. When you got Lamar Jackson going, oh, what? What? He's doing the Will Levis. When Lamar Jackson does a bad enough throw to where he does the Will Levis, and you can get that meme, dude, that's bad. Like, that was an overthrow. He knew it wasn't impossible. He knew it was an impossible throw. And he just threw it inbounds deep. And I'm like, dude, you gotta crank that one far, dude.
And he threw it to, who was it? Was it Hamlin maybe? He threw it right to him too. It was just like, he overthrew his receiver. It might've been Likely by like 10 yards right to the safety. It's just like, oh my God, dude.
Yeah, dude. And that fumble was not good either.
No,
terrible
it wasn't.
Fumble. Just complete gone.
Made Von Miller look like it was 2015. I thought he was going to take it to the house.
So, yeah, and I liked Lamar afterwards. He was asked about Mark Andrews and his miscues, and he's just like, we're a team. We function as a team. I need to get better. Like, he didn't throw him under the bus or anything. Lamar Jackson's a great teammate, but yes, this is just like I talked about with Dan Campbell earlier. But the whole vibe around Lamar Jackson at this point now that this game's happened is that he can't win in the playoffs.
Which isn't fair.
It's not fair.
No.
But he's been ousted all 5 times he's made the playoffs.
I say it's not fair because it's like, I mean, he drove them down the field to score a touchdown in less than 2 minutes left, and then all they needed was that 2-point play. He got the ball to Andrews. It could have been a better throw. Obviously, definitely could have been a better throw, but
it should have been caught.
It should have been caught. I know it's snowy conditions. I know it was a low throw. As a professional football player in that moment, you have to, or otherwise you're going to get shit for it. I don't think it's fair to roast Lamar. He's obviously going to take the brunt of it because he's the quarterback of the team that lost. but I don't think they lost because of him, even though he had two turnovers. And then imagine, let's say Mark Andrews scores that. Like, Ravens might win that game in overtime, or maybe, I don't know, maybe the Bills drive down. They still had a lot of time left. It was like a minute and a half left for the Bills to potentially score. So maybe the Bills just score and it's not overtime at all. But never know. The Ravens could have won that game if Andrews caught that ball. So I don't think it's necessarily fair to roast Lamar. But as the leader of the team, that's just the nature of the game.
Yeah, I feel like football is the one sport where you could what if yourself into an early grave. If you think about it long enough, you can what ifs all day. But the better team definitely won. The team that committed the fewer turnovers, the team that played better defense, all around. Like this, the Bills outplayed the Ravens in this game. And the fact that the Ravens made it close is an accomplishment in its own, because this game was relatively under control of Buffalo for the majority of the game. So that being said, like, I still think they need to get Lamar a legitimate receiver. I think missing out on Zay Flowers in this game was huge. They really needed Zay Flowers. They got to bring another weapon into Baltimore. They really do.
I agree with you, and I like Flowers and I like Bateman a lot. I think they both would work better as like a wide receiver too. So then if you got like a true alpha in there, you move Zay to like the number 2 or even like the slot, and then Bateman as like the 2 or 3 or whatever. I think that offense works a lot better. And then you also still have Andrews, Likely, Henry. You have like a complete team. I agree with you that they're missing like an alpha wide receiver, because I like Zay Flowers. I don't think he's an alpha. No. He's like a guy that you throw like gadget plays to, and he breaks it off for like 60 yards type stuff.
Well, he's the guy you could throw the ball to 130 times a year. He'll get like 115 catches for like 1,060 yards. Yeah. He's like a Wes Welker type guy. Mm-hmm. I'm just wondering what kind of money they have to spend, and can they go and get a guy like T. Higgins?
Oh man, that would be a game changer,
because he's a free agent.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to wonder if T. Higgins is going to chase money, or if he's going to chase rings. If he wants to chase rings, Baltimore might be a safe space to be in the mix. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
a couple of notes from this game too. So the Bills blitzed on 46% of their defensive dropbacks in the first half. So maybe that was just a game plan. Get to Lamar. Could have helped them maybe get that interception off him. I don't know. I think that was a first half interception if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
Thought that was interesting. The Bills only blitzed on more than a third of their dropbacks 3 times this year. So it seemed like they were just a little bit more aggressive towards Lamar. Worked out, I guess. And then 3 times this season, the Ravens tried to throw it to Mark Andrews on a 2-point conversion that they had to have to tie the game, and did not connect on any of them. Once against the Packers, where they lost by 1. Once against the Steelers, which they lost by 1. They're going for wins both times in that game, and then this one. Tough. It looks like the same exact play on all of them too. I don't think it's necessary. I don't have video. I'm just looking at screenshots. It doesn't look like it's necessarily his fault on all of them. The second one looks like maybe a bad pass from Lamar, just a little too out in front. The Packer one, he has 3 Packers surrounding him, so I don't know if that's his fault either. But just
I'll tell you what, dude.
Maybe throw that play in the bin and think of something else. Maybe.
Remember that video of Jay Cutler ripping the page out of the playbook and throwing it at Mike Tice?
Of course, yes.
I think that's what Lamar Jackson needs to do with that specific play. Just
it might be for the best, honestly. It might be for the best. Okay. That's it. Anything else about any of these games you want to say before we get going here?
Not necessarily. I think they were all good football games. I think we're all kind of like excited for the conference championship, and I think we're heading into some better football.
Yeah,
even more. So tune in on Saturday.
And Kai will be back on Saturday with us to preview those games. I'm sure he's going to be all excited about the Eagles. Can't wait for that. So as always, you can find us at Raging Takes everywhere: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and TikTok. It's back. It didn't get banned. Well, it did get banned, but only quickly, like 12 hours. It's back. So we're back on TikTok. You can email us ragingtakes@gmail.com. What?
Something's not the same about TikTok since it came back.
Oh, did they change the algorithm or something like that?
something's wrong about it.
I'm at Montana Sauce on Twitter. Dylan's at Such a Wise Fool. Kai's at RTP Kai. We'll see you Saturday. Peace.